welcome to this week's episode of Talking with Our Traders. I'm the host, Cindy Edwards, and with me today, as always, is Craig Mucklow, Vice President of Trading here at Caesars Sportsbook.
Hello there.
Adam Pullen, Assistant Director of Trading at Caesars.
Hello, everyone.
And Joey Fiesel, Head of College Football here at Caesars Sportsbook.
Hello.
Hey guys, how was your Christmas?
Good. Yours?
Good, no complaints,
Good.
Got to catch a game.
The one you called.
The one I called, yes.
That's
How did those Raiders look? Honestly, pretty bad, but their defense looked pretty good.
Back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing that you can win a game and not complete a pass in 3 quarters, which doesn't bode well for the rest of the year.
Other than that, 7 seconds, it
Yeah.
was a pretty boring game. Yeah. But, okay, let's get into it. A busy couple of weeks of college football is getting ready to kick off, so let's start there. First up, we have Michigan versus Alabama. So far, Michigan football is 0-2 in the college football playoff under Jim Harbaugh. Will that change, or will Alabama get back to the national championship game, Joey?
Well, we'll see. This Michigan-Alabama Rose Bowl is the better game of the 2 games. Both these teams, out of the top 4 playoff teams, they're both 1-2 in power ratings, so these are the 2 best teams, but only one can move on. And whoever's going to win is going to be the favorite, barring any significant injuries late in the game. These are 2 evenly matched teams. I'd give Michigan the nod for the better defense of the 2. Alabama, better offense, especially when it comes to the passing game. If we go back to the college football playoff announcement, they showed, Michigan, they're all waiting to see who they play. Pops up Alabama on the screen, and they all audibly groaned because they thought they were going to play Florida State. And for good reasons they groaned. Nick Saban never lost a semifinal in the playoff era, has 7 national titles, 6 at Alabama, 1 at LSU. On the other side, Jim Harbaugh, despite controversy this season, along with his brother, are dominating both the NCAA and NFL, as we saw the Ravens dethrone the 49ers and essentially eliminate Brock Purdy from MVP. So this should be a phenomenal game. A vast majority of the action right now is on Alabama, and I honestly don't blame him. Thankfully, our trading manager, Eric, who's a big Michigan fan, will get to not get any flack for rooting for his team on New Year's Day. So should be a good game.
Yeah. No, like Joey said, 2 of the 2 highest power-rated teams left playing each other, which is a little unfortunate, but that's how it goes. But no, I think Alabama's obviously what we saw from early in the season, struggled losing to Texas, and to be where they are now. Obviously took a Hail Mary against Auburn to get them there. But the win over Georgia was impressive, but Michigan has a better defense than Georgia does. It's not the same Georgia team we've seen in the last couple of years. So give a slight edge to Michigan, but like you said, Nick Saban's been in this spot. Jim Harbaugh last year, we saw what happened to Michigan when they were favored. Didn't work out too well for him. So seems like a real close game. It could go either way, in my opinion.
At least Joey got the Harbaugh reference in before I did.
Take your thunder.
Yeah, thank you. Similar offenses, points per game, but obviously different kinds of schedules. Alabama had the slightly harder schedule when you back out strength of schedules and you're looking at who you're actually playing. But that would be expected playing in the SEC. Quarterbacks are both similar ratings, but I think it comes down to the mobility of Milroe and if he can not turn the ball over. Obviously, he's more turnover prone than McCarthy. As Joey said, we clearly need Michigan for the book, for the game and for the futures. So we'll all be cheering Michigan on next week. But no worse feeling to having to beat Nick Saban off a couple of weeks rest, which is not good from what I can tell.
Very true. Well, next up we have number 3 Texas facing number 2 Washington at the gorgeous Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. Joey, let's dive into that preview.
Yeah, Sugar Bowl, Caesars Superdome. Shout out Caesars Superdome. Line's been stuck at 4 since we opened this game when the playoff teams were announced. Kind of both these teams have earned their spot to play in the playoff. Washington, obviously, over Oregon. Texas, they had the 1 loss versus Oklahoma in the season, but they still fought through, won the Big 12. This should be a good game. Washington is kind of one of those teams like Seattle where they seem to be losing the entire game, and then the last 4th quarter they find it and they get a win, which, it's kind of like TCU was last year. So on paper, Texas looks like the better team. They have better players on both offense and defense as a whole. Although Penix finished second in the Heisman, Rome Odunze the wide receiver playing on Sundays. The great players, but on the other side, Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy, also great players. Jonathan Brooks, phenomenal running back, tore his ACL in November, so they'll be missing him, but they have two young phenoms, running backs that can fill the spot. I really see Washington as being outclassed in this, so I like Texas. The action is pretty split, but it's not even close to the action on the Alabama game. We're looking at about 1/3 of the action on this game, so people aren't as interested in this game, thinking it's a little more competitive. I'm sure we'll see plenty of action on day of and week of as we, even right before the game starts. So, yeah, it should be a good game, but, I expect Washington to probably find a way and keep this competitive throughout the game, even though they're the worst team.
Yeah, no, I agree with Joe. It seems like points should be in store in this game. Texas does have the stronger defense, so they have the advantage there. But, overlook Washington at your own risk. We all thought the Pac-12 championship game, Oregon was expected to run roughshod over them. They didn't. We talked about how Washington, they played so many close games. They didn't look as impressive down the stretch. But there's something to be said about winning all those close games, which they did. One thing I do know, it's going to be a lot of burnt orange in Caesar Superdome. It's going to be a big Texas crowd, so that's going to have might have a factor in, but Washington just seems to, I don't know, they have that something. And I think if the line goes up, I'd be more interested in the Washington side than laying the points with Texas, that's for sure.
Texas is the only team of the Final Four that are in the top 10 offensively statistically, although between first and fourth, however you rank them, 2.5 points per game separate those scoring offenses. Texas averaged 475 yards per game, Washington 469, so yeah, the guys are right, expect points. The total's high enough as it is. Penix, one of the elite quarterbacks this season, unbeaten, yet a 4.5 point dog, which speaks volumes of the strength of Texas. Washington, as Joey said perfectly correctly, their last 4 wins all by 1-score wins and eked out wins every single time. They've done us favours. We need Texas, don't we, this week?
Yeah, it's relatively
on the futures.
On the futures. Yeah, futures
yeah.
Why we need Texas.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, we're cheering on a Texas-Michigan final.
Okay, well, I have a question. If Florida State beats Georgia, do they have a legitimate claim to the national title?
No. It's just not how college football works. Jordan Travis was obviously a staple to this Florida State team. When he went down in injury, it was very clear they were missing something in the offense. Tate Rodemaker was just not the same quarterback Jordan Travis was, and they clearly weren't a top 4 team once they won their conference championship. It seems unfair to exclude him, considering they went undefeated, but it was the right decision. I mean, they're not in that top 4. I mean, there's still either probably 2 other teams, Oregon or Georgia, who would be better than Texas or Washington, in my opinion, still. But, yeah, I think it was the right decision of the committee. Florida State's not happy, obviously. I mean, it's clear. But, yeah, if they they're 19-point dogs, so it'll be impressive if they beat Georgia. I'll give them that, but it doesn't mean the national championship.
They opened 13.5. Yeah, I mean, the money's telling you straight away. Maybe 2 fully strength, fully motivated teams, there's maybe an argument, but I didn't, even with the quarterback at Florida State, I didn't think they were a top 4 team anyway, and I think Georgia got host, they should be in the Final Four. So yeah, Joey's right, the answer's just flat out no.
Well, every team can claim to be a national champion, like Central Florida did a few
Florida
years ago.
Yeah, that was entertaining.
I think they had a parade. The governor called them, proclaimed them national champions when they didn't get into the Final Four. So they can claim. And if they go ahead and beat Georgia, like I said, 19-point underdogs, 7-1 on the money line. But obviously, no Jordan Travis, no Trey Benson, no Jared Verse. Plenty of guys sitting out. It would be impressive if they do get the win, but there's only one team that's going to get the win and be national champions, and that's the one holding up that crystal football in Houston next week. So it would be impressive, though, if they got the win. So, I mean, they're huge underdogs, but we'll see what shows up. Georgia doesn't have exactly a lot to play for either. A lot of people sitting out as well. So
that is interesting. They're both Florida teams that try to claim national championship.
yeah,
It's interesting.
we'll see if we get another proclamation.
Must be in the water.
Yeah.
But aren't the Georgia players just auditioning for their Philadelphia Eagles draft pick?
That's right. Yeah, the Eagles love to tap into that Georgia system to get their next group of players. That's for
Smartly,
sure.
too.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, is the Iowa game total currently 35 the lowest in bowl game history?
No. Last year, the Music City Bowl, Nashville had a total of 31.5. Two teams being the Kentucky Wildcats and
Iowa.
the
Yeah.
Iowa Hawkeyes.
And did it go over or under?
I don't know. You tell me.
What you expect?
Under?
Yeah.
Game ended 21-0 Iowa, with 0 points being scored in the second half. A story that Iowa is way too familiar with. This year, we featured in Orlando, in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Tennessee will be without their quarterback, Joe Milton, who had a great bowl win last year. The reins will be passed on to Nico. Not even going to try.
Iamaleava?
Yeah, Iamaleava. There we
Wow,
go. I
somebody
tried looking up.
Somebody
Killed
practiced
that.
that all night.
Yeah, I
think
tried
that's
practicing and then that is right because
Okay.
it escaped me. Who is going to be the guy for the Volunteers next week? They hope it's going to be a great first test for him, especially against a talented Iowa defense. I do not expect the Iowa Hawkeyes to do much on offense as we've normally seen, but perhaps they will have some tricks up their sleeves as they know they are the laughingstock of the league when it comes to offense. So. We'll see how it goes. It's 6.5 right now, I believe, for Tennessee. So, yeah, 35 is especially low probably for Tennessee. Tennessee usually puts points up, so we'll see how it goes.
All right. Okay, so let's switch to NFL Week 17, and let's start with our updated NFL Power Rankings.
The chip is number one.
Always number one.
Craig, care to just refresh our followers on the chip?
Joey gave me 5.5, the Ravens, against his number one team, the 49ers. So, our former head of college football will be eating the chip after Twitter Spaces.
I thought I had Brock Purdy under 5.5 interceptions.
Yeah, you probably did. Guess who's my number one?
I'm going to take a wild guess and go with the Baltimore Ravens.
You are smart. Last week I had them 2 points inferior to the 49ers. This week I made them half a point superior. So really, it's 1 and 1A. The 49ers, this is the third time they've played a top elite defense, top 10. They've lost all 3 games now. They went against the number one defense. There's no shame in losing to top 10 defenses. But the 49ers are in second. They'd been now 2.5 points superior to the third place, which are the Buffalo Bills. And I hate to say this, 4th, Miami Dolphins, and 5th, Detroit Lions.
It pains me to say.
Go on.
Ravens are number one.
Oh, music's to my ears.
Oh, it makes me sick. 49ers 2. I get Eagles 3 still. Lions 4. Dolphins / Bills. Again, last week, Chiefs were not in my top 5. They still remain out. I think, yeah, that's garbage fire.
You wouldn't want to play the Chiefs, though, would you?
No,
Yeah.
they don't want to play them, but they certainly seem to be eating each other up.
Yeah, same with me. Ravens and Niners, obviously the top 2, followed by the Bills, and then a tie for 4th, Cowboys and Eagles.
All right, you got Cowboys in there. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for going through that. After a crazy weekend, we need to do an NFL MVP check, and of course, can you guys remember a game that was as significant for the MVP race as the Ravens 49ers game this past Monday?
I'm old, and the answer's still no.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen a game that, maybe a week 8, week 9, but we're going back years.
Right.
Maybe the Giants 49ers, years and years ago when it was Sims and Steve Young. Look, the MVP's Lamar's to lose now. We said it last week. If the Niners win, it's either Purdy or McCaffrey and whoever has the better game. Lamar still has to win one more game though to tie it up. What wouldn't surprise me is if the 49ers pulled a Jaden Daniels and pad their stats big time this weekend against Washington. In the event that Lamar does lose, then Brock and CMC are back in the conversation. However, and this is a big however, there's a 16-1 shot that is on the outside looking in, still there for 2,000 yards. If Miami win, Tyreek's got to have a big game. So I said the 60s last week, Lamar. Now I'm saying the 16's on Tyreek.
All right.
Building a portfolio of MVP.
No, we said that one big game can change.
Yeah, and it
MVP,
did.
And it did. It figured, we talked about it weeks before, looking ahead, that Lamar went in and won, and he was going to be the favorite likely. And it turned out, obviously, he didn't have stellar numbers, but he didn't throw 4 picks like Brock Purdy did. So it's interesting how that flipped, but that's how it goes. When you have a huge matchup like that, it's going to affect those markets. One thing, how about, instead of Tyreek, what about Tua? If Tua wins the last game, wins in Baltimore, and wins at home against Buffalo. Does Tua have a case if he puts up big numbers?
Because he's a quarterback, yes, I agree. But we know who the MVP is of the Dolphins team. It's obvious.
No?
And
Right.
because you can see from the deficit the Chiefs are missing there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was watching the Ravens game, started to feel the pain in the pit of my stomach, similar how it's going to be shortly. But, even in that first half, it was like, who is this MVP? Because, if you would ask Craig, it was Zay Flowers dropping, but I think it was Lamar wasn't throwing great out there. Obviously, Brock Purdy was just throwing it all away. CMC, he had one good drive, but it's hard for a running back to kind of make that case.
The score took him out of the game as well.
Yeah,
The threat was gone.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was done. So, second half was a little more clear. Lamar was running efficiently. The offense was going smoothly. The defense was just keeping him off the field. And to go to Santa Clara and do that against the consensus number one, it was a big game for Lamar and the Ravens. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Dolphins goes this week and how it pans out. Because that is a big game still. It's not a shoe-in for Lamar yet.
Has anybody ever won the MVP trophy while being tackled by a referee for a safety?
It was
definite.
wild to see those live MVP odds changing during the game.
Credit to Eric, he did a great job and tried not to listen to me in his ear the whole time.
It's very hard to do, especially that live, because just, it's...
Yeah.
Right.
Got to feel the temperature and that whole first half I was just trying to figure out, despite me losing my bet, I was like, man, how's this MVP going to go? It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
You trade off money as well while you do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, moving on. If Joe Flacco was the Jets' starting quarterback, would the Jets be in the playoffs?
You can certainly make an argument for that. Flacco's been great since he's come back, but again, there's no way of knowing that he was going to do that. Obviously he has a good defense to support him in Cleveland, but it's just easy to say now because yes, he's obviously better than Trevor Siemian, than Boyle. Zach Wilson had one game the last 4 weeks against the Texans, but credit to Flacco. He's going back to old times and doing what he used to do. It's very impressive, but can't rag on the Jets for not going in to sign him. And I wouldn't have expected Flacco to play as well as he's played.
The Winnipeg Jets, yes. The New York Jets, no. It's the Jets. The answer's in the question.
It's the Jets.
Yeah, I put no. I really don't think it's that simple, and I think it would take something away from this Browns team. They've had 4 different starting quarterbacks this year, and they're still playing with grit week in, week out, and they're not giving up.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco's performed well these past couple of weeks, and I don't think any AFC team wants to see the Browns in the playoffs at all. So, yeah, I don't think it'd be simple as just plugging in Joe Flacco to fix the Jets. I think it's the Brown teams. Brown teams all around playing well, and Joe Flacco's just adding to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so who are going to be the last 2 wildcard teams in the NFC?
I have a love affair with the Rams at the moment because they're
Right.
the highest improving team. So I think the Rams get in anyway, and they do with a win, combined with a Seahawks loss this week versus Pittsburgh, which is not beyond the realms of possibility. Pittsburgh played really well last week. Otherwise, we need to wait till week 18 to clinch. So based on that scenario, the Rams have a 29% chance to get in this weekend, so I'll take the Rams there. Then it's the alternative between any 3 from Seattle and the winner of Green Bay, Minnesota. Unless they tie, then they're both eliminated and Seattle gets in. I will probably go Minnesota only because of defense and schedule, and maybe motivation of who they're facing in week 18. We'll see, but Rams and Vikings for me. I've been cute on the Vikings all year.
All right.
I got both NFC West teams. I got both Rams, Seahawks. I think Rams are playing sound football. I think their defense still has a lot of trouble, but I think their schedule is going to line up to enough, although they have the 49ers in the last week, and especially if they're going for if that first round bye is still in the mix, then the Rams are in trouble. They cannot beat the Niners to save their life. And then I think the NFC North is just going to beat each other up in these last couple weeks. I do like the Vikings this week for Sunday night. I think that the Packers have kind of I mean, they gave up 30 to the Panthers last week. I think Vikings are going to have to make a quarterback change possibly. They're talking about benching Nick Mullins. So, yeah, I think the NFC North is going to battle each other. We're going to see the two NFC West teams make it in, Rams and Seahawks.
Yeah, agree with Joey. That seems like the most likely scenario. But I'm going to say the Packers, maybe. You know,
All right.
Vikings beat them early in the season, but that was a game, Kirk Cousins left injured in the fourth quarter. But, sometimes that reverses. A team wins on the road at the other team's place. The other team comes in and returns the favor. So I'm going to say the Packers, if it's not Seahawks, Rams, the Packers sneak in.
I like it. Okay, I'm going to pose the same question, but for the AFC.
Right now I have Browns, Bills, and Texans. C.J. Stroud getting out of concussion protocol. Wants to prove his offensive rookie of the year. I think that's how it's going to end up.
Yeah, I'm going to say Browns, obviously. I'm going to say Dolphins, because I think the Bills are going to end up winning the division. And I'm going to go with the Colts. It's close between the Colts and the Texans for the last spot, but...
You've both got concussions. It's Miami, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh?
Interesting. Okay, well, we will see. Should the Bears stick with Fields or move on to Caleb Williams?
As of today, they own the 1st and the 8th pick in the draft, in a quarterback-heavy draft. Last year, they traded out of the first pick for a number 9, a 61. This year's number 1, a second rounder, and a quality receiver in DJ Moore. If I'm the GM of the Bears, I don't think the quarterback's the entire problem. There's lots of problems around it. I trade out of that number 1 spot again because there's plenty of quarterback-needy teams behind you, and then build around Justin Fields.
Did you steal my notes?
We think alike.
We do think alike. Yeah, I think exactly the same thing. I think the Bears have a lot more to work on than just getting a quarterback right away to be competitive in the future. They have a lot of pieces to add. Like you said, it's a quarterback-heavy draft, so I say you try to get the most value off that first pick, keep lining those picks in so that you can just rebuild that franchise because it's more than just a quarterback. Justin Fields, obviously, a little bit disappointing of the year, had some injury issues, and they just really have been flat on offense like they kind of always have been. You can ask my brother, he's a big Bears fan. But yeah, trade out and get some more picks and just continue to build.
Yeah, more darts at the board. Why not?
Yeah.
I'm going to say they should move on. I mean, he's had 3 years. He just hasn't improved. But again, it's definitely not all his fault. Definitely not all his fault. But it's a quarterback-heavy draft. I think you got to make a move. So I don't think you want to be left, going with the status quo when you have the chance when there's so many good quarterbacks. Again, it's a crapshoot, whether it's Caleb Williams, whether it's Drake May. I think they got to make a change. I think 3 years is enough. And again, but not to say Justin Fields, it's his problem, and he's the reason why the Bears haven't been playing well. It's definitely not all him, but I think they should make a move.
All right. Let's move on to our game previews. Let's start with an AFC showdown between the number 1 and number 2 seed, Dolphins and Ravens.
Am I the expert on this one?
Yeah, let's start with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so both teams coming off relatively big wins. Miami proving Dallas are not a good team, as we predicted. Baltimore showed why they were the cream of Farmer Mucklo's crop since week 1 against the 49ers. This game last year, I joked with a couple of Ravens fans that was the bet of the century, the Ravens. It was one of the games of the year. Ravens took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown, and I'm doing what I do best. And then Miami at the start of the fourth quarter completely dominated. Tua torched the Ravens D for 4 passing touchdowns. Tyreek, the earth is they're still fixing the grass, he went that fast. Touchdown receptions of 48 and 60 on the way to a 190 performance, which, if we're going to talk MVP, he's got to repeat that. Ravens have won 8 of the 11 against Miami and 4 of 6 at home. They own Miami. The 1 year Miami actually were going winless. They beat Baltimore in overtime, if I remember correctly. I remember where I watched it at Ali Pali, where the World Darts Championship is. I couldn't believe this opened 3 Baltimore. It's not 3 now, but I had this a touchdown. Ravens aren't going to forget what Miami did to them last year. Tua can't beat elite defenses. He's lost to the 3rd and the 5th best ranked defense. He gets the number 1 defense this week on the road. I'm giving you the pick now for the weekly game predictions. Ravens clinch the 1 seed. Lamar wins MVP. Job done.
Yeah, line open up 3.5. obviously game both teams want to win. Ravens want to lock up that first round. Dolphins want to wrap up the division, keep the Bills from breathing down their neck. But I think it's a letdown stop for the Ravens. Then the young calf, Mike McDaniel, will take out the old bull, John Harbaugh. Give me the Dolphins in this game.
Another chip bet?
No more chips.
All right, Adam, you are the
No more
tiebreaker
chips.
here.
No, I agree with Craig. I thought the line would be a lot higher than
Yeah.
what it is. I was surprised after what they did to the Niners. It's such an impressive win. But look, we've seen it time and time again where a team, they have a big win and then the next week it's a different team. Obviously, like Craig says, the Ravens have some motivation. Obviously, again, it's big for both teams, but the Ravens, they lock up the number 1 seed. Likely Lamar wraps up the MVP if he has a decent game. But yeah, Miami, their first win over a team with a winning record, beating Dallas last week.
But took 5 field goals.
Yeah, exactly.
That's-
Yeah, so, the jury's still out on Miami, but, the Ravens look solid. Like I said, I thought it would be higher than 3.5. I thought it'd be more 4.5 to 5. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm with Craig. I think the line's a little light.
Yeah, and the Ravens are in the game of the week for the second week in a row.
And deservedly so.
Next, we have the highest total of the Week 17 slate in the Lions-Cowboys game. Who wants to start?
Well, first of all, you know what that means, because it's a 50-point total.
What does that mean? It's going to be the under?
10 and 2 to unders now this year.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, line open 5.5 and 52. It's now 6 and 53.5. The NFC North champions, Lions. Weird, strange to say. We've never said that before. They're back in the playoffs after a long absence. Not surprising. They're a team that people had touted before the season to take that next step and make the playoffs. So good on Dan Campbell. It's impressive that they're back, but hasn't come easy. They've had some close games, struggling against the Bears. Only the game against the Broncos, they looked really, really good in the last few weeks. Now Dallas, they lost to Miami, they lost to Buffalo. There's doubts about them as well. They roughed up on the weak sisters of the poor throughout the year, beating the Commanders and teams of that ilk, just dominating at home. I think the Lions are still going to be motivated. I think 6 is a lot of points. We saw them struggle against Dallas struggled against Seattle at home. So this is going to be the best team other than the Eagles that they played at home. I mean, they dominated the Eagles, so give them credit there. But yeah, I think the points are a little too much. I think the Lions, even though they struggled and not looked great in winning the division, I think there's some value taking 6. So should be a good game. So in the Saturday night affair as well.
Absolutely. Joey?
Yeah, 2 teams coming. Lions coming off 2 wins, Cowboys coming off the 2 losses, AFC East. I can see the Cowboys playing at home are obviously much different than playing on the road. But Dan Campbell's not one to rest on his laurels. I like the Lions in this one. They're obviously higher on my power ratings. I don't think they're just gonna let Dallas have this one. Give me the Lions plus the 6.
You remember you asked about favourite bowl names?
Right.
This one is called the Hangover Bowl.
Ooh.
So the Lions, they're still going to be partying, so whatever state they'll be in after the first division title in 30 years. The Cowboys are happy not to face the cream of the AFC East. Cowboys are 6-1 against the spread at home. Take the Cowboys. It's a lot of points, but I'll take the Cowboys.
Okay, well, we will see. Even with the Chiefs spiraling, losing 3 of their last 4 games, they're still 7-point favorites at home against the Bengals. Who wants to break this down?
I could go. Chiefs in a tough spot, really, struggling in the offensive front, and that's starting to affect their defense because the defense is on the field way more.
Right.
Bengals had a tough loss against the Steelers, really just got flat outplayed. I think the Chiefs in this one get this done. It's kind of lock up the division. The Raiders are kind of like sneaking on the outside. They're like a very, very small lottery chance. But yeah, I think they really have to get it together, and I think this is their get-right game.
Well, game opened 7.5 and 45.5, now down to 7 and 44.5. So you see what the betting public thinks of the Chiefs' performances lately. What else can we say? You've said it week after week that they have not looked good. Something is wrong. Something's amiss. You saw it in person last week. The offense, the offense is just not clicking. Whether it's Tyreek Hill, but he's been gone for a little while, so they should have been able to make those adjustments. But now they got Pacheco's got concussion issues. But the Bengals, they took a big hit last week in losing, hurting their playoff chances. Browning had a rough game as well. Jamar Chase, whether he'll play or not, that's a question. They definitely need him, but under no circumstances would I lay any points with the Chiefs at this point. Like I said, I think they get the win. and I think they're going to get in the playoffs. But yeah, just bet the Chiefs at your own peril. They're not in a good spot. They're not in a good place right now. So, but we've been saying this for weeks, and they keep reinforcing it every week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The old adage is the Chiefs don't cover, but they're 20-24 against the spread at home since 2018. But the under is 29-16, so they're a big under team in the last few years. On paper at the start of the year, we're licking our lips because this is Burrow versus Mahomes.
Right.
So it's not happening. Now it's more about two desperate teams looking for a win to revive their season. I think the game means more to Cincinnati than it does to Kansas City, that's for sure. I can't see Kansas City losing twice to the Raiders, and I can't see the Raiders incomplete in their passing all the way to 2 more wins. So I think Kansas City wrap up the West title. You look at the Bengals, they've won 3 of their last 7 games, and 2 of those wins were in overtime. Very, very fortunate. I don't have the Chiefs favoured as much, but I can see them winning and not covering. I do like the under, though.
Yeah. I will say Arrowhead's insane. I didn't realize how loud that stadium was.
Second loudest, isn't it? Seattle number 1.
Good. Seattle's very loud.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was absolutely insane. To be fair, they were booing their own team, so we'll see. But moving on to a primetime game, we have 2 NFC North rivals going head-to-head. Let's preview Packers versus Vikings. Adam, want to start this one?
Sure, yeah. No, line open 2 in Minnesota, 44.5, same total, spreads up to 46. Obviously, we've talked about its big implications. Both teams still clinging on to what remaining playoff chances they have. They said they met earlier in the season. Vikings won in Green Bay. Different Green Bay team. Maybe they flip the script, like I said, and take care of business in Minnesota. But yeah, the Vikings were looking like a good bet. We talked about it a few weeks ago. They're looking like a good bet for the playoffs. After Cousins left, Dobbs was doing a good job, but then that started. The last 5 games they've lost 4, and their only win was the 3-0 game against the Raiders here in Las Vegas. So they went from Dobbs, they were with Mullins. Mullins has just thrown too many picks, 6 picks in his last 2 games. That's not going to get it done. They got Justin Jefferson back, which is good, but Mullins has got to play a lot better. But like I said earlier, I think the Packers, I'm liking the Packers in this spot. They might be my team, to get in the wild card, like I said earlier. But but look, the Packers haven't played well either. They lost to the Giants, they lost at home to Tampa, and they barely beat Carolina, the worst team in the league, last week. So I could see anything happening in this one. I'll lean Packers, but it's a tepid lean at that.
I'll be the other side of tepid. I'll take the Vikings. The one thing neither team can afford is a tie because it eliminates them both. Vikings, all 8 losses this year have been 1-score games, which is the polar opposite of last year where they won the 1-score games. Of those 8 losses, it's a total of 32 points, which is ridiculous. Vikings have had the toughest schedule this year. They've been without Cousins. Their defense is far better under Brian Flores, ex-Dolphins coach. Vikings for me, but another adage to be mindful of. We've all said primetime unders this year, but primetime overs on a 16-5 run currently.
Interesting. Joey, thoughts?
Yeah, I lean Vikings in this spot. I think they just have the better defense. Like I said, it's the Packers, 2 losses, and then they barely squeak by the Panthers. Somehow the Panthers' offense looked like they were doing something on Sunday. This is like a Sunday match with 2 very low-mid teams. But it's exciting to watch because it has playoff implications. So should be a good one. I'm interested to see who O'Connell goes with the quarterback. I assume if he already did not say Mullins, that he's going to go with Dobbs. So we'll see. But yeah, I like the Vikings in this spot.
I feel like Mullins has shown more than Dobbs, even though he's had 2 bad games. I mean, they led big against Cincinnati.
Right.
Yeah.
They had a chance to come and drive downfield last week and he threw the pick.
Right.
I think there's more upside with Mullins right now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's play overreaction or not. Overreaction or not, the 49ers will not win the NFC.
Overreaction. This team has handled almost every team they've played. They've only lost to 1 NFC opponent on the road all year. I think this is a wake-up call for Brock Purdy. They'll probably pad some stats this weekend. But yeah, I think they're going to handily win the NFC still.
Yeah, no, I'll say overreaction as well. They're still the deserving favorite. I mean, look, the team's likely, everybody's going to have to come through San Francisco. The next closest competitors in the standings, Dallas and Philadelphia, they handled them with ease. So yeah, let's not, it was, not not an eye-opening loss, but the Ravens are a good team. We talked about how good they are, so let's not say that they're being challenged just because they lost a game to a good team. So yeah, plenty of offensive weapons, solid defense. Just a blip on the radar, I think. Purdy had a bad game, but yeah, definite overreaction. I think they still get it done and get to the Super Bowl.
Overreaction. Yes, they do pad their stats this week against Washington in the assumption that Baltimore might lose to Miami. But remember a few weeks where we were talking contender pretender.
Right.
They're not the main event for me at the price that they are. They weren't for me at plus 240 for the Super Bowl. They're certainly not for the price for the NFC either for me.
All right. Overreaction or not, Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback.
Fourth team in 5 years. Does that tell you he's top 10? Maybe in the CFL. No, I mean, he's 8th in touchdown passes. That's the only statistic he has, top 10. I like the guy. He's done us favours with some of the results, but yeah, huge overreaction.
Yeah, overreaction, but I don't think as much as Craig is. I think he's a top 15 quarterback in the league today. I mean, there's not a lot of good quarterback play. I don't know if you watched any Sunday, so it's not saying much. But it's good on Baker. I mean, he was severely doubted, said was a bust as a first-round pick. He's now, he's got a lot of weapons. The Buccaneers, Rashad White, Mike Evans. I mean, he's got some help down there in Tampa. But yeah, I think he's not a top 10 at the moment, but he's not a bottom 5. So.
Yeah, agree with Joey. Overreaction, but slight. I mean, he's having a phenomenal year. 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He's been much maligned over his career. Obviously, whenever a number 1 pick doesn't do as well as everyone thinks, you're got that bust label. And Tampa's been one of the surprises of the season. Not many people had him in this spot, so Baker deserves a lot of credit in getting them. Like Joey said, they do have weapons with White and Evans, obviously, but kudos to him. He's done great. But top 10, it's just a little bit of a stretch.
All right. Overreaction or not, the Kansas City Chiefs are frauds.
Frauds, no. Victims of their own success, yes. 2 Super Bowl wins in 3 years will do that. It seems like now you've got all the publicity and you've got the wins, everything's time to get those easy checks and all the publicity. The game doesn't seem to be their focus right now. They lost Bieniemy to Washington as well, traded Tyreek Hill. The big contracts that they've paid to some of the players means you've got to go bargain basement at other positions, and therefore it becomes an issue because you don't have that level of talent and the value that you're paying. So overreaction, and before you say it, she's not a distraction. She does not throw the passes. She does not call the plays. And if she was on the field, she'd probably catch more passes than a certain wide receiver that's lost a couple of games for.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, no, overreaction, but can't blame the question being asked. Again, they haven't looked like their normal selves. And that's what happens when you're a Super Bowl champion and you struggle the next season, even though they're a likely playoff team. You got to ask the question, what's wrong with them? But yeah, frauds is a little too harsh. Like I said, there are a lot of people, if they get into the playoffs, people are not going to want to play the Chiefs because they just think Mahomes is, he's got that certain something that, you think they have no shot. But, don't overlook the Chiefs. I know it's tough to, snap your fingers and then break out of your funk, but I certainly don't blame the question, but frauds is a very harsh word.
I mean, losing to the Raiders. I'm neutral. I'm not going to say either way. But, the Chiefs have been NFL golden boys for the last couple of years, considered the class NFL, getting all the big primetime games, and you're not performing. So at some point, and then the market, sports betting market still treats them like it's just big
Loyalty.
Powerhouse team.
Yeah.
They're not anymore. So I'm going to change it. They are frauds. I'm going to go with frauds.
I like it. Yeah, if Patrick Mahomes is the baby goat, shouldn't he be winning even with a lack of talent at wide receiver? I don't know. I
It'd be
remember the
interesting.
GOAT maybe doing something
The original
like that.
GOAT restructured his contract numerous times so
Right.
that he could get weapons.
Guys.
And they'd spend all summer at his mansion or Florida, wherever you call it, practicing with his wide receivers and getting the timing. I just feel like the talent around him spends too much time doing adverts. There isn't an advert on TV that they're not in. So I think the focus has gone there because now you've got this popularity. You come into the end of your career, let's write as many checks as you can.
That's so fair.
That's my
You're
opinion.
watching a Chiefs game and you got the coach,
Well,
the
that's the problem as
quarterback,
well.
and the tight
Yeah,
end.
how many
and
coaches do you see in
everyone.
adverts? Did you ever see Bill Belichick in an advert?
Well, no, I
He's
don't
not-
think that's
well,
his
he's not the
pitch.
mo- yeah.
He's not
Winning
very
Super Bowls.
marketable.
Love that
Yeah,
advertising.
but he's too busy winning Super Bowls.
In their defense, like Joey said, they've been the best team in the league for a while, so they deserve to get those chances. Kudos to them. So
Is this like a normal fall off, do you guys think, though? Because I think everyone compares them maybe to the dynasty of the Patriots and how long it lasted, but that's like not normal. So is this like a normal fall off if you've been good for, say, 5 years?
Yeah, because the salary cap does that to you.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if Mahomes restructures his contract in the summer to help him get more weapons.
Yeah.
yeah.
You just need a wide receiver. Okay, overreaction or not, the Raiders will win the AFC West.
Overreaction. Too little, too late for the Raiders. It was exciting to see them beat the Chiefs. Obviously, with the the big underdog story, we like it. It was the first time since 2020, but yeah, they're not going to be able to stop the Chiefs from winning that division.
Yeah, overreaction. Like I said, I think the Chiefs get the win this week, or they'll win one of the 2 remaining games and get the job done and win the division. But great story by the Raiders and Antonio Pierce. If I do say something, they got to give him the job, right?
Right.
They made
I think so.
Don't know if they made a mistake by not giving Bisaccia the job when he got him into the playoffs. Who knows how he would have done? But Pierce seems to have earned the respect of everybody in the locker room. Not hard seeing the alternative with McDaniels early in the season. It was a mess, but that's one thing I do know is that they should give Antonio Pierce the full-time coaching job. But yeah, overreaction. But the Raiders are playing well, and it was a big win last week.
I agree. Yeah, it's an overreaction. You can't score 0-1 game and then can't complete a pass for 3 quarters in another and expect to win the division.
It doesn't even out because of the 63 points scored?
They're the Chargers.
Good point. Well, the Bills barely beat the Chargers, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like this game.
Yeah.
I like
the
this
Bills
game.
have got their eye on next week, not this week. But then you've got to look at the quarterback, Salad's boy O'Connell. Looking at the stats, his touchdown percentage ratio is 3%, 61% completion rate. You're not going to win a division with a sub-mid QB.
So do you think they should give Jimmy G another chance?
You've paid him.
Yeah?
I'm sure he can complete a pass, even if it's like a little screen pass. Unless it's to a Chiefs
I wouldn't
receiver.
hate that move. I wouldn't hate that move. All right. Well, that concludes our overreaction or not. Let's end on weekly game predictions. Who would like to start?
All in, Ravens. That's the first spread I've picked all year, and it'll be the last one I pick all year.
Okay.
I went Seahawks at home against Steelers. Super Bowl 40 rematch. Give me the Seahawks -3.5.
Would have gone with the Ravens, but I chose the college football. It's a big week.
It's a big
Champions
week.
semifinal.
No, I like that.
Semifinals. I mean, everybody's gonna be their eyes glued on the game. The game I'll be glued on is the Arizona Bowl between Wyoming and Toledo. I'm going with Wyoming -3.5. Toledo's quarterback, he went poorly, and he's now at Baylor. And just today, their running back, he decided to go in the portal as well, so he's not going to be there too. Their top offensive weapons, and plus, this is the last game for Wyoming coach Craig Bohl. Did you know that he's retiring after this game?
I didn't.
Yes, he was a former coach of Wyoming for a while, done admirably there, but he was one of the reasons why North Dakota State became an FCS power. So he was there before Wyoming. So I think they send him out on a high note, even though the line, they opened a small dog, now they're sitting at 3.5-point favorites. But I still think those factors of Toledo losing those, their top 2 playmakers, and Wyoming having a lot of motivation for this game. My pick is Wyoming -3.5 in the featured college football game of the week.
Love it. All right, well,
What's your pick after your $4 winner?
Yeah.
I know. I have to really follow up last week. Mine's not too exciting, but I do have New England to cover versus the Bills. That's a large,
Money line?
a large
Money line.
spread.
Can they just win straight up, please?
I wanted
Please.
to take that.
Pretty please.
I wanted to take that. New England came in earlier in the season, beat up the Bills. I think it's going to be a close game either way. Like you said, the Bills are looking to next week. I think they've already declared that this is a win. Maybe not them, but everyone else has, which is always a recipe for disaster.
True.
Especially
Very
against
true.
Bill Belichick, who is kind of shady. I feel like he would love to just get this win.
No doubt.
He's been dominating. Well, the 4 wins they have won have been against AFC teams, 2 of them in the division. So
Familiarity, that's why.
exactly. All right. Well, those are our weekly game predictions, guys. Thank you for tuning in for our last space of 2023. We hope you guys have a happy New Year. If you don't already follow us on X, Instagram, and YouTube at Caesar Sports, please give us a follow. This entire conversation will be uploaded to our YouTube tomorrow. Guys, anything to say before the weekend?
Good luck with the chip, Joey.
Happy
Good
New
luck
Year,
to me.
everyone.
Yeah.
Happy New
Happy New
Year.
Year.
Happy New Year.